Trade fast, worry less. The law of quick expirations is on the horizon. Why wait years when you can have it right now? So let's talk about 6 of the best reasons to love zero-day options. Ahoy there, trader. It's Phil, and welcome back to the Anti-Investor Stocks and Options Trading Podcast, where we talk about what really works and consistently wins at trading the financial markets. My goal is to give you the right tools, the correct rules, the software to assist you, a community to support you, and if you'll allow me to be a mentor to show you the right way so that you get real results in the fastest and smartest possible way. Now then, let's look at zero-day options. The first one, which I initially forgot to write down, and just as I pressed record, I'm just remembering, but zero-day options, specifically with SPX options, there is no assignment risk. In fact, let me just back up slightly. If options are brand new to you, the best thing, or the best way to consider them as comparable to things in the real world, we're just doing the stock market equivalent of placing a deposit on something that we like the look of. For example, in the real world, you may like a car. It's got all the right spec, the modifications that you like. It's got the colour, it's got the furry dice in the window. That's the one that you want. You say to the car dealer, I'd like this car, this particular car. And he says, certainly, sir, just leave a deposit. And it's yours, and come back at the end of the day, the week, the month, however long you decide. Usually by the end of the month, you can work out the insurance, the paperwork, the documents, everything else that you need to make a purchase of a vehicle. And the point there is you control the car until the expiration, the end of the month, the end of the week. I'll hold it for you. And that's what we're doing in the stock market with an option. The option gives you the right, but not the obligation, to buy 100 shares. Again, if we're Apple stock, we buy an option, we've got the rights, we've reserved 100 shares. And we get to decide at the end of the day, the week, the month, the quarter, the year, whether we want to keep those shares. So if the stock goes up in value, then the option will also go up in value. So we don't have to keep it until expiration. We can also sell it back to the market and profit the difference, because that deposit, the option value, will also go up in value proportionally along with the stock. And that's how we can make money as buyers. As the seller, it's the opposite. You want the stock to do the opposite. If you're taking the other side of the trade, if you're the seller of a call option, then you want the stock to stay still or go down. And you collect the premium for being the seller of those options. And that is essentially Options 101. Very quick, back of the envelope. And again, if you're familiar with options, stop rolling your eyes at me. I know it's not the most accurate way, but for the new people, it's just a very quick back of the envelope primer, just to put a real world comparison in place so that they suddenly become very much easier than you thought just a few minutes ago. So let's now talk about specifically zero-day options on SPX. Now, SPX is a cash index, meaning that there's no shares to buy or sell. So one of the huge advantages to SPX options is they expire to cash. There's no assignment risk. You're not going to be issued 100 or 1,000 shares of SPX on any size accounts because they're cash settled. Now, what this means is that big accounts and small accounts can trade without fear of being assigned. You can use a larger portion of your portfolio, if you like, and again, without worrying about being assigned. So it's very affordable for small accounts or big accounts for that matter, with these faster expirations. And again, the zero-day expirations is just an expiration that expires at the end of the day. So you've got this huge affordability. Again, big account, there's lots of liquidity there. So if you're a big account trader like most of my listeners and most of my traders, then again, you can put the big swing for the day on or for the week on if you want. And then similarly for the small account traders, you can go right down to $50 with XSP, which is the smaller version of SPX. So again, if you want a $50 risk, you can have it. And if you want to The big risk, again, it's a market that can absorb a lot of volume, a lot of liquidity is available on these options. And because of this, you also get this instant feedback, this instant gratification. There's no waiting weeks, months, or years, as you might do with, say, dollar cost averaging. Again, we know it's a proven system that works, but the payout cycle is come back at the end of your life, and maybe you'll be a millionaire. And that's the logic behind dollar cost averaging. Your minimum kind of time invested is 5, 10, 15 years, and maybe it's come back at the end of 30 years and you've got a lovely little nest egg ready for retirement, assuming that inflation hasn't killed it. But with 0-day options, again, as I come back to it, your payout cycle is at the end of the day. So on the assumption that you have a proven, profitable, robust trading strategy with good risk management, then you've got this instant gratification at the end of the day or the end of the week. There's no waiting years, as we've already said. Now, because the 0-day option expires at the end of the day, there's no overnight risk. A lot of people are worried about overnight risk. You don't have to worry about surprise events, even though it's rare that you see black swan events, but for some reason people still worry about that. Personally, I'm not bothered about overnights, holding overnights. Again, one of my strategies takes advantage of SPX options, gets paid at the end of the week. It's more of an income swing is how I refer to it. So 5 to 7 days. And we're just taking advantage of the ebbs and flows back and forth. It's in a very similar way to we do during the day. We take advantage of the ebbs and flows back and forth through the day. So you reduce this overnight risk. You don't have to worry about the big events. Again, this week, as I'm recording this, it's the end of April, beginning of May. We've got a huge earnings week. We've got the non-farm payrolls. We've just had FOMC announcements. Jay Powell has been talking nonsense again and sent the markets yo-yoing back and forth. So you don't have to worry about that with 0-day options. You've got no overnight risk. If you're worried about what the market's going to do overnight, that goes away with the end of day expiration. And even with the short-term expiration, again, as I've already said, the with an option, as a buyer, you're limited to the premium that you've paid. If you're a seller of the options, I don't advocate naked, which is unlimited risk theoretically. I always advocate using spreads when it comes to 0-day options on SPX, so that you've got this defined risk. So you're never going to lose. You're never going to lose the shirt off your back when it comes to this. Your risk is defined on the entry. So if your risk is $5,000, and a macro event happens overnight, if you do have a short-term trade idea unfolds, then that's your risk. It doesn't get any worse. You're not going to be assigned stock. You're not on the wrong side of a movement. Again, when you're wrong, you're wrong. You're always wrong. But in this case, it's limited if the market was to jump on a black swan event. And again, similarly, if your risk is $50, the same thing. The worst that can happen, if you're on the wrong side of it, is the risk that you define on the entry. So you don't have to worry about this with certainly with options and the 0-day options. You've got no overnight risk whatsoever. You also have the ability to compound your returns instead of monthly and quarterly swings, which for many years is fine. When the market's just trending and chugging along like it has done the last several years pre-COVID, you can just chug along and get paid at the end of the month, the end of the quarter. It works out quite nicely. But because of this huge liquidity or increase in liquidity of the short-term expirations, and again, just a few years ago, 0-day options they didn't exist. I'll tell you that. They existed on the third Friday of every month for 1 day a month, because on that Friday they expired. And then you had weekly options. So every Friday there would be an expiration. Now with SPX, there's an expiration every single day. So you can compound your returns, again, working on the assumption that you've got a positive expectancy strategy, good risk parameters, then you can compound your returns. If you need help with a strategy, head over to my homepage. I outline all my money-making strategies there for you, and you can decide which one's right for you. If you need help with it, just shoot me a message. But you get to compound the returns. So it's very, the potential for rapid results can be can be rapid. Anyway, you can also gamify this. It can be quite fun. Again, if you've got something that's working, it's really fun to see the results. Again, you get this immediate gratification. It can be quite entertaining. Again, if you like being engaged in the markets, you can be engaged in the markets on a very regular activity. I like a very passive approach during the day. I like a lot of free time. I like to record these podcasts, help other students. And my actual trading activity is, maybe 30 minutes a day if I'm doing the short-term trading. On the swing trading, it's, 30 minutes a week. And, it's very minimal. And you can break that down to chunks. You don't have to sit there for 30 minutes. If there's nothing to do, it's very clear that there's nothing to do at that moment. And again, I explain all of that in my systems trading book. So anyway, gamification, it can be very entertaining and engaging with the market, especially when you've got a good strategy that makes money on a regular basis. And lastly, I'm just going to mention it again, we've already covered it earlier, but you reduce your risk to macro events. Again, if you are worried about the black swans, the wars of the world, the economic events that move and shake the markets, you have to worry less or not at all if you're just using zero-day options, and your overnight risk is zero. So it doesn't impact you in the slightest. Who says what after hours or before the market hours? You've got this there's no short-term macro events looming over you, wondering where the market's going to open the following day. So options are always considered and have been considered high risk to the naysayers. Zero-day options have been the worst of the worst for many, many people, and as I've just outlined very briefly, they're nothing to worry about most of the time. And if anything, they're actually a safer way to trade if you use them in a smart way. The reality is they are a tool that can be used to profit from the markets in a few hours to a few days, if that is your preference. So if you like what you heard here today, be sure to follow and listen to the very first episode where I talk about one of my money-making patterns. You can go back just 2 episodes to number 57 where I talk about the SPX system that I have radically changed my trading to in the last 6 months. And if you'd like to learn more about that, head over to antivestor.com and you can find out a little bit more about what I do and see if it's right for you. And if you've got questions, shoot me an email to phil@antivestor.com. Let's start the conversation. I've always got time for serious traders, and what I do isn't right for everyone. At the very least, I'll point you off in the right direction. So that's all for today. Thank you for giving me your time and your attention, making me part of your regular routine. Have a wonderful day, and I'll speak to you at the same time next time. Keep in mind that futures, options on futures, stocks and stock option trading involve a degree of risk that may not be suitable for all investors. There is a risk of loss in every investment that you make, and it's your responsibility to assess the risks of your decisions. Past performance is no guarantee of future performance, and Antivestor provides educational information and does not provide financial advice.